pitch. And a chopper to third. Fielded by Hoffman. The toss to first. And there's one gone here in the ninth. The scoreboard reads 3:27 in the afternoon. A beautiful Sunday. That'll bring up the center fielder, Sebastian Stargell. Left-handed hitter facing the left-hander, Emil. The pitch. Here's a ground ball to second. Scooped by Mars. And the throw to first. There are 2 outs in the ninth. Lions lead at 9-0. Top of the ninth. Lions looking to run their record to 8-2 on the year and complete the sweep of Texas Southern. The Lion dugout is primed. With 2 away, Emil has fanned 6 in 8 2/3 worth of work. So now the senior from Gramercy, Louisiana, out in front 1-2. The stretch and the pitch.
We had baseball in the 30s along with football and basketball, and just about all the athletes at that time played all 3 sports. The one name that came to mind is a man named James Carlin, who played baseball and football. They claim he was one of the best punters in the country at that time, and also one of the better baseball players in the South.
From its early beginnings, Southeastern baseball would find itself abruptly halted by one of the world's most important events.
The war ended all sports for a while, and then after the war, they resumed with football and basketball and baseball, and there was also a big influx of athletes that came down from Massachusetts, both football and baseball. Some of them were because of Jim Corbett, who was a student sports writer then, and went on, of course, later to fame with LSU. And I understand that he was one of the reasons a lot of these guys came, and then came back after the war. And that was the beginning of baseball in the 40s, I guess the new eras, if you would call it.
This new era delivered Coach Pat Keneally, under whom the Lion baseball program found success.
He was one of a kind. The guys loved him. He did a great job of recruiting. He had some wonderful teams. I think he won in the 50s. He won something like 3 conference championships. And in early in the 60s, he won a couple of conference championships. You talk to any of the guys today that played for him, they still love him to death. And that's one of the reasons this field is named, Pat Keneally Field.
Keneally and those who followed were often given the enormous task of coaching both football and baseball.
And that wasn't unusual at a lot of colleges our size back in those days. I mean, some of their football coaches worked track or tennis or whatever, and we always had a football coach that was assigned to baseball through the years. And a couple of them had turned out some pretty successful teams, like Ricketts and Torbush did when they were here.
But before Coach Ricketts and Torbush got their turns, Coach Jim Waldrop reached into the local community to pull one of Hammond's native sons onto the field. A move that would produce one of the program's biggest legacies.
Well, I had aspirations my whole life. Born and raised, actually 3 blocks from here. And you never know if you're good enough to play. You always think you're gonna play in the big leagues. But whenever I realized I probably was a decent enough player to play probably when I was junior, senior in high school. And I was fortunate enough to get a scholarship here.
So I go way back, Greg. I hate to say it, but I watched him play Little League ball. And then he came here as a player. And, of course, I was here as SID the 4 years that he played baseball.
In his senior season, Martin earned the role as captain for a team that overachieved and rose to national prominence.
We had a really good team that year. We didn't have a bunch of draft picks on the team, but we had a bunch of good baseball players.
But first, this team had some hurdles to overcome.
We didn't win conference, actually. Nicholls State beat us out for the conference championship during the regular season. We got an at-large bid and went to Jacksonville, Alabama to play, and we were the number 4 seed. It was a 4-team tournament.
Well, Jacksonville trots out a left-hander named Ted Barnacle, who led the nation in strikeouts that year with something like, he averaged like 16 or 17 strikeouts a game. His 20th strikeout against us that night was in the 9th inning with the bases loaded and the catcher threw the ball away, and we scored a run. The next batter got a base hit. We beat them 5-2, went on to win the regional.
From the regional, there was only one other place to go.
To the World Series, and of course that was just an experience in itself. Be up there, and Andy Davis kind of added a little bit. He was the I guess you call it a star. There's a lot of good baseball players on that team.
Loose group. Coach Ricketts was a coach who was did a great job with us. He really did. He kept us loose, and everybody respected Coach Ricketts, and more so than his knowledge of the game, he got us to play hard for him, and that was really important. We played for him.
Another fine young Met catcher is Johnny Stevenson. Watch him throw out Willie Mays.
In the early 80s, there would be a paradigm shift in how Southeastern would run its baseball program when former Major Leaguer John Stevenson was hired to coach the Lions.
John was the first real baseball man, I guess you could really say, that they brought in just for baseball. And he concentrated on baseball. Of course, with his background, he had some tremendous success at William Carey before he came here.
It was time everyone in fact, Southeastern had gone independent, was independent that year, weren't even in a conference. And that's when Skip Burtman was at LSU, Ron Maestri at UNO, and there's a lot of emphasis being put on collegiate baseball then. That's really when it turned.
But John just began to build a true baseball program.
Coaches, he's the most knowledgeable person I've ever been around baseball. I mean, his experience in the major leagues as a player, as a coach, and his experience coaching at this level also. I mean, he taught me how to manage the game as well as anyone ever. He's probably the best game manager I've ever seen, and naturally I've ever been around.
So the new skipper began to put a new face on the program.
Southeastern's a great place. When I came here, it was about 5,000 or 6,000 students. We had to upgrade the field. We did that. The first thing probably was the fence, and we added bleachers. I think those left field bleachers right now are from the end zone of the football stadium. We took them out of there, when they did away with football, and we put them on that, and they're still in left field. But we had hardly any bleachers at all when I first came here. No fence, hardly a fence, and no lights, and really no scoreboard.
I went from sitting out in rickety old stands in cold weather, 30-something degree weather sometimes, and then when Coach Stevenson, I got to give Coach Stevenson credit. When he came in, he found me a little press box, enclosed press box. I'll remember him to the day I go for doing that for us. And of course, and then when they redid the stadium, they built a nice press box that they have here now.
When I got here in '87, basically, it was 3 sets of wooden bleachers and chain link fence and chain link backstop. Basically, that was it. And it was like that for a year or two. And the first thing we did was build an outfield fence, which that was a catalyst to everything that came after it.
Started with the fence, and the income from the fence, gave you some money to do some things, and the lights were the next, and the scoreboard, and then they upgraded the new stadium, and it's still an upgrade. They're still doing improvements on it, and it's a first-class facility right now.
This same field is much improved now. Coach Stevenson, that was one of the things he came in and really did. He upgraded the surface and everything. But this was the old place where the Hammond Berries Evangel League baseball team played in the late 40s. And they won 2 Evangel League championships playing here. There's a tremendous amount of baseball history just wrapped up in those 6 or 7 years, and it was a community thing. Hammond, some of the articles I read about the Evangel League in those years, Hammond traveled better than any other team in the league, and that included Morgan City and Houma and Baton Rouge and everything, and they won, like I said, they won 2 championships. But this is the actual same field that the Hammond Berries played on. 3
years into his tenure with the Lions, Stevenson was called up literally to the major leagues by former roommate Jeff Torborg, then the manager of the Chicago White Sox, to help coach the team. Lions staffers did not have to look far for his replacement.
I was very fortunate to get the job, and after about 2 or 3 months, Tom Dupe was athletic director, and I really appreciate it. He took the interim tag off.
Greg was very, very knowledgeable, real smart baseball, well liked in the community, and everything, and worked very well. We worked good together. It worked out real good, and he stayed on and did very well.
I always had the utmost respect for Greg, and then when he came on as John's graduate assistant, I just knew it was a match made. And Greg was one of those guys, Southeastern was in his blood, you know, and he lived it. And then when he took over, when John left, he just continued the growth of the program, had some great ball clubs in the early 90s.
One of those years produced another special chapter in Lion baseball history, as the 92 team earned the right to go to the NCAA Regional by nailing down the Trans-America Conference title on the last day.
This was in 92, the first game. Kirk Bullinger threw a one-hitter, and we beat Florida International like 11-0. I think the second game was a Saturday. It was a Saturday game. We got beat by Centenary. We went through the losers bracket.
Sunday rolled around, and the Lions had the monumental task of winning a doubleheader against Centenary. Martin went to the bench for a little-known pitcher who came up big.
Greg threw out a guy that hardly ever pitched, Steve Jimenez, and came out in the first ball game, and we lit it up, and we won with Steve pitching. Steve made all-tournament team, made one appearance. He wasn't even a regular rotation during the season. I can get back, where'd you find him, you know? Steve Jimenez, Southeastern.
After that improbable move and win, came another improbable move by the Lions skipper.
You could see Centenary, that's who we had to beat twice that last day. Kirk, about the 6th inning, walked from the dugout in front of the Centenary bench to go to the training room to get his arm prepped for the next ball game. And it was just like a pin hitting a balloon. Their dugout just deflated. We got to face him again. And Kirk gutted it out, and we won it, and we went on to the regionals in Tucson.
Today, it's the Lions of Southeastern Louisiana against the 10th-ranked Rainbows of Hawaii,
where Bullinger continued to shine and cement his name as one of the best ever to wear a Lion uniform.
You're doing an outstanding job. And Finley now playing behind Williams at first base. Ground ball hit to the shortstop Hughes, who goes a short way to record the out, and the ball game is over.
Can you say more about Kirk? Just a competitor, just like his brother. He was a shortstop in high school and went to college and became a pitcher. And then he's in the Zephyrs Hall of Fame. He's in the Southeastern Hall of Fame. Just in a class guy, and just a competitor, and he did wonders for our program. And of course, he went out and just zeroed Hawaii.
We went to the regional out in Arizona and played very well out there. Really did. I mean, we were one pitcher away from seriously having a good shot at going to the College World Series.
I feel good about it right now because of the fact that we played very well the last half of the season. We have been very good offensively all year. We haven't struggled much offensively, but we have struggled on the mound a little bit.
That year we had Jeff Williams, who was hurt that year, and he had arm problems, and he didn't get to pitch. And as you know, Jeff pitched in the big leagues and led the Japanese league in saves for years. So if we'd have had him for that, we'd have had a good chance at going to the World Series. We were that good.
While there were some very good teams for Martin and Southeastern baseball in general over the years, there were some very good players too.
Coon Porter was one of the greatest quarterbacks Southeastern ever had, was also an excellent baseball player. And then in the 60s, Bob Hardy, a pitcher from Alexandria, and we had the Oobs come in, Billy Ladner. Ladner was the only two-sport All-American Southeastern's ever had, baseball and football. And then, and then we went on through the years, and then in the 70s, we hit with some excellent baseball players here.
Although some might call Jerry Bowles a one-hit wonder, he could throw a baseball and throw it hard.
Jerry played 1 year, and back in those days, you could sign after your freshman year. They didn't have that 3-year waiting period. So Jerry he signed. I think he set the strikeout record that still stands.
At the plate, few could match the diminutive Gus Malespin.
Gus was one of the best hitters we've ever had here. If he'd had a little bit bigger stature, Gus was only 5'8" or 5'9", but he was, he was the American League Player of the Year. He's the only Southeastern athlete that's in the Cooperstown Hall of Fame.
Southeastern Hall of Famer Mackie Wagaspak set records during his days here, too.
Mackie put up some of the most gosh-awful numbers that you could ever imagine for a hitter. I started going through the numbers that young man posted in 4 years, and it was just, all-time records for home runs and RBIs.
Over at shortstop, few could compare with Hall of Famer Andy Davis.
Andy Davis was one of the best shortstops we ever had here, one of the fastest players we ever had here.
Some good storms. Oh my goodness.
Baby, what a breaking ball.
Miley, do it, son.
While there are seemingly too many to mention, Major Leaguer Wade Miley is among the current wave of Lion standouts.
Wade's just, hey, what more you can say, a rookie making an all-star team, just at the top right there. He's just done wonders for the Southeastern baseball program, the recognition. And the good thing about him and a lot of the athletes, they've never forgotten their roots. You know, Wade, same thing. He wears a Lion for Life chain under every time he pitches.
With these types of connections intertwined throughout its history, Southeastern baseball has flourished and will continue in the years to come.
Jay's done a fabulous job with this program. I've just had the utmost respect for everything he's done. He's not only won on the field, but he's won off the field. And that's the whole essence of college athletics.
On this day, at this place, these Lions, like so many before them, felt like kings of the diamond.
Swing and a miss at the no-hitter. Jordan Email just threw a no-hitter, and the Lions win it 9-0 as he is mobbed on the mound. Jordan Email, the Lutcher grad, is a bulldog no matter what. But today, he pitched with the heart of a Lion, and it is the 4th no-hitter in school history, and the first since 1979.